say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance, attack me if you dare, son, I will crush you. I'll crack your back, you should be scared, son, I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this, just being honest. I astonish, my
Sonic Boom
flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic, you're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score, I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog, I'm the boss, you can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame, they claim to hundreds of hours.
Listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me is just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me is just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was 1 day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win.
What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the Anti-Oki Podcast, where virtue signaling is more important than reality. I am Mr. Behavior, and he is C-Los. What is going on, man?
I am ready to delve into whether people live in the real world or not.
Well, we know that, I think that we've established that a good amount of the FGC does not.
Or do they? I mean, I don't know.
Maybe. We're gonna find out. You sent me this this story a little while ago, and it's like kind of like a Twitter thread in which I think people were dealing with some of the transgender issues that we find in the FGC. And I know like we've been talking about this a lot, but honestly, this is a huge topic in the SGC right now.
It's kind of become the topic at this point.
Right.
It's kind of like all people talk about in the FGC at this point.
Right.
Almost, and usually in a negative light. Like, oh, you didn't respect this person's pronoun. Like,
Right.
it's always something negative towards somebody else that didn't accept their opinions every
Right.
time. But this particular thread that we're going to bring up is very interesting.
Yeah.
Because something unexpected happened. We're going to unfold it as it goes.
So watch until the end.
Yeah, watch until the end. There's some surprising stuff at the end. So I actually want to put this person in a positive light. And
Okay,
kind
let's
of
bring it up.
Like this really should be kind of like this. I don't know if I want to say. I don't want to say role model. Kind of like the formula, which we actually would be fine with. So basically, this is actually a deleted tweet that me and someone in my Discord, a few people in my Discord actually got involved with. So this tweet was just kind of made on its own. And there wasn't any reason to make this tweet in particular. But basically, this person, Hanrose Dav, made a tweet where she said trans woman or woman like 18 times. I'm sure you guys have seen this kind of like structured tweet where it's just repeating the same thing over and over. I like the ones where it's really mean more than they make fun of this kind of format better.
Because if the more the times that you repeat things, the more true it is. Like everybody should know this by now. If you repeat the same thing over and over, it makes it true.
Yeah. But again, I don't really want to. This whole segment, I'm actually talking about this person in a positive light, and you're about to see why. So basically, this tweet was made. Now since this tweet was deleted, I don't exactly have everything that was said in this thread saved. But one person in particular, who was a sponsored player, basically responded saying that trans men are women. It was kind of just like to poke fun at what she said. And her response was she tagged the sponsor of that player. And she said, yikes, didn't know that X, Y, and Z sponsor sponsored a transphobe. That's basically what she said to this player. And so I saw that and I said, this is unbelievable because, well, not really unbelievable. I mean, it's expected at this point. It's like, this tweet started out as a tweet to show like love for trans women and like how accepting people are, and she does the exact opposite, right? And that's right. Very common with really like leftists in the FGC. They really they give you the premise that we are caring people, but you look at the actions and you look at the fundamental philosophy behind what they are doing. It is the total opposite.
Right.
And this is something we will be talking about probably for the entirety that this podcast is. Roll this up.
Right.
The problem, and I don't even think a lot of these people, including her, I don't even think they're aware of it.
No, yeah, they're not.
Well, but
they're not.
This thread we're about to show, we actually, so a friend of mine who's in my, a friend of mine who I know, Banjo, he made her aware of it, and you can actually go if you want, you can try reading through this thread.
Yeah.
Go, what goes on in this thread?
Yeah. So basically, Banjo, the bad guy, comes in, and I think is this a deleted tweet?
It's just that's deleted now.
It's the trans women are women, trans women are women, trans women are women.
And
okay.
We'll get to why that was deleted.
Okay, so and Banjo says, for those of you who are listening on the audio version, Banjo says here, you crusading and tagging sponsors on different opinions makes you look like trash. How about you kindly educate people on how trans people want to be addressed and not be an absolute moron about it? Please respect the LGBTQ community, as do I, but this is a bad look. Or people respect, sorry, but this is a bad look.
What's your take on that before we go any further?
Well, I think that there's a lot there, and it's kind of hard to parse out, right? It's like, the people use this word respect a lot nowadays. And I don't think that they're aware of like what it means exactly. Like, first of all, respect is something that's earned, I think.
Say that, yeah.
But I don't think that like, I think this tweet tries to, it's like a purple pilled tweet. Let's put it that way.
I think so.
You know,
we've actually talked about this too, because I don't. There's some people like, especially in my Discord, we don't exactly agree all the time, so we go back and forth about it. But yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, I don't know. It's like respect. I don't know if that has anything to do with what Hannah was saying, or Han Rose Dav, whatever. I don't think. Well, I think that Han probably thinks that, but my objective opinion on what she was doing doesn't have anything to do with that. It has to do with trying to get people to accept that your opinion is the correct opinion, which doesn't have anything to do with respect. It has to do with being an authoritarian and not respecting the opinions of others. So it's the exact opposite. So I think that Banjo tried, but kind of missed the mark a little bit with this tweet.
Yeah. I think it's like you said, respect is too often used as a word in general. And I think in the context isn't. I mean, I understand. I think what he was saying.
Yeah.
But I think sometimes it's just the wrong word.
Yeah.
I feel like when we start using these words like this, then this becomes the default way to use the word respect.
Right. Exactly.
I don't think anyone deserves respect. I think you have to earn it. It's
right.
on the individual to earn it.
100%. 100%. All right, so then moving on, it's Han replies to Banjo, and we got who's this guy Silos on this thread? Oh wow.
Who's that?
So Han says, "I like that you tweeted at me and took a screenshot of said tweet to tweet at me." What? Wait. Didn't he just like subtweet her or like retweet her? Wait, what do you mean?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think this. Yeah. Because I remember this is back in January, so like,
maybe she doesn't know how Twitter works. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, I don't. I think it's just a
I'm just messing around.
Just the format of Twitter.
I'm just roasting her for no reason. And let's see. Also, people are responding of their own free will, unprovoked. Never ask for a response, debate, or discussion to be had. That's all. There's also the option of ignoring and keep scrolling. She's right to some degree, but at the same time, it's like you did put it on Twitter. Like, it's not saying that you didn't ask for a response when you posted it publicly on Twitter is kind of disingenuous. You know what I mean?
I mean, it's like, you know what the point of Twitter is. The
Right.
point of Twitter is to engage in conversation.
Right.
If you want to put a tweet where you just lecture somebody on an opinion and you don't want people to
Right.
respond, there's actually an option for that.
There
lock
is an
it so
option for
nobody-
that.
You can you can lock it so that nobody can comment on it. You can make it so only people who are following you can comment.
Actually, I don't think that you could have when this came out. Because if it was in January, I don't think that feature had rolled out yet. Because that's a 2020. That's new. You're talking about like being able to lock it to people who you tag in the post or something like that. Yeah. Personally, I think that's a stupid option.
I think it is too.
Like, it's so, you know who uses that the most is like blue check marked weirdos. Like Alyssa Milano uses that.
Ugh.
Because she doesn't want to get roasted. It's like,
they don't want to. Yeah, it's the same thing like deleting comments on YouTube. Same thing.
Yeah, I mean, it's if you put something on the internet, this is how I fundamentally feel about it, and that doesn't mean I don't block people or mute people because I have gone on blocked raids. I like muting people the best, honestly, because it's funny because they keep tweeting at you and you don't know, but I do block people sometimes when I'm just like I just don't want to deal with you. But you have to understand there's some level of when you're on the internet, when you put yourself on the internet, there's going to be people that are going to criticize what you have to say, no matter what it is. Right. And they're going to, like, we're putting ourselves out here right now. There's going to be people that are going to hate what we have to say, and that's just kind of how it is.
Pretty much.
So pretending like, oh, I never asked for a debate or a discussion, like, you didn't, like, come on. That's silly. We all know that that's silly. Yeah. But yeah, there is the option to ignore and keep scrolling. I mean, I've done that before. That's what I did with F Champ's tweet. I kind of because I didn't feel like talking about it. But she's not 100%. She's not completely missed the mark there. But all right, let's see. This guy Silos, he's trolling over here. This guy's trolling. He says, "No, there's the option." You said there's the option of not posting anything if you can't deal with people. You said exactly. Yeah, you said exactly what I said. You can't deal with people. Calling you cunts by calling them cunts and tagging sponsors trying to cancel people. Welcome to the internet. And then she posts this GIF.
I think it was just like to shut up, bitch, kind of thing. I mean,
like
whatever.
I don't really get. That's a really weird. What is that from? That's from like a music video, isn't it?
I've seen that before. Kind of creeps me out. I'm gonna say.
It's weird. It's weird. But we're gonna have to keep it up there. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just gonna scroll past this because it's kind of weird, and I don't like it. Says regardless that I tag someone's sponsor, the sponsors would have seen it anyways. What?
I don't know if that's true or not.
Keep in mind you represent that sponsor. Transphobia isn't an opinion. It's actually being trash to an actual person, being an actual trash person to a whole community who wants human rights and respect. Wait a second. Hold on.
Some problems here.
Now this is a tweet that's ridiculous. First of all, transphobia isn't an opinion. Your opinion of what you're giving us your opinion on what is transphobic right now. So what are you talking about? She is ironically like I am like beside myself with how dumb that is. Yeah. That's insane. And it's like you represent that sponsor. Do you own that sponsoring company? Because if this is her company, and she has certain things that her company decided that their representatives can't do or say, then I guess you have a point. But I don't think so, right? She doesn't own the company, does she? Like, who is this company that this person's sponsored by? You know what I'm saying? Like, if it's like you represent these sponsors, you have to... I understand the whole, like, hey, if you represent this company, you don't be doing X, Y, Z. I get it. I don't necessarily like it, but I understand when companies do that. Yeah. But unless she's in a position of authority at that company, she has no right to say that that's even a thing about the company. It's just weird.
It's like I mean, the whole thing, transphobia isn't an opinion. I mean, that statement is from a premise that obviously we don't agree with.
Yeah, right. Right.
Yeah, so I don't. Again, this is
right.
This is kind of what we talked to in the previous episode, where it's just like the like modern gender theory. It seems like, in her opinion, is objective. That is what's true, and that's that. Whereas obviously we would say like that is a subjective opinion that's been around for what, like 30 years.
Right.
It hasn't really been for that long, but it seems like she's not even really aware of that. And it's like, you know, a lot of people in the FGC don't even know where this stuff comes from.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
like you said, yeah,
They don't know
who,
Simone Dubois.
Yeah,
They don't know John Money. They don't know any of that stuff. You know, they don't know who the Rimus twins were. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, so that you know, that kind of stuff. I mean, it's dangerous because it's like, it's coming from a place, like you're saying, of lack of understanding. And I think that if there was more understanding, then people wouldn't have shit takes like this, to be honest.
Yeah.
Like, it's so weird. It's like, also, what is this whole human rights thing? What is it about having a different opinion that infringes upon your rights? I don't understand that.
I think it's a misunderstanding of what rights are.
Yeah.
I think it's gotten so bad that rights are conflated with opinions.
Right.
Somehow. I mean, that's kind of wild to think
those ideas are so mutually exclusive. It's not even funny. Like, I mean, unless you're talking about how you have the right to have an opinion, in which case they're diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
So, like, that is just wild. I mean, I tweeted about this a little while ago, which is, I said, the fact that we even have the phrase politically correct on its own is insane.
When you get into the underlying reasoning as to why that's even used, it's like,
yeah,
it's kind of like the word controversial. Controversial just means it can be an opinion that a lot of people don't like. That's
right.
all it is.
Right.
Why is that a big deal?
Yeah, it's an opinion. It causes controversy, right? It's like, controversy is just like a contention of ideas, really.
Yeah.
You know, and so, like, but people have gone so, like, to the extreme with these ideas, and it's like, a controversy is like, you're taking away my rights, or you're like, it's like, wow, we're so fragile. Anyway, let's move on. Let's keep reading this thread.
Yeah.
Banjo responds and says, and you tagging that sponsor makes you look petty. Okay, I agree with that. You're not helping the cause if you're out here coming at people combatively. You're only making it look worse. You're coming off militant, not in an educational manner. You're not explaining why trans women should be called women. Yeah, he has a point.
Yeah, I'm totally on board. Obviously, now, of course, like obviously I disagree with the last like 5 words.
Yeah, right.
But it's like, it's not even really the point. It's like, if you're gonna make that claim that trans women are a woman, tell people why. Like, why should they listen to you? Because it sounds like the original tweet is obviously like a very like direct tweet to people people like me, really, who would say trans women are not women.
Right.
And so, fine. Why is what I like? Why is my premise of gender wrong and yours correct?
Yeah.
Right. None of that. It's just no, it's incorrect. Okay, well, you're an asshole. That's
right.
basically like,
right. No, you're wrong. Well, you're a dick. And like, what? Like, you're a poo-poo head. Like, yeah. I mean, honestly, this is kind of a segue to something that I wanted to talk about previously, about trans women in the FGC, and like why I think this is such a contentious issue in the FGC, and why it was so easy for a lot of these conversations to come about in such a short amount of time. Now, when you think about the FGC and how it's evolved, right? Back in the day, you had to like go out to the arcade and like learn how to play, right? Learn how to play, get your ass kicked a bunch, spend money, do things. And that means you had to be like outside, you had to be socializing to some degree with people, right? With the advent of the internet, a lot of people have been able to learn how to play games at home a lot easier, and play against high-level people and have access to high-level people, right? Like, I can play with you, like, and you'll whoop my ass a couple of times, but I can learn some shit from you, right? And even though we're on opposite sides of the country.
Yeah.
This has led to people being inside a lot more and not necessarily like socializing or like going out and like asking girls out on dates and doing things like I was doing in high school, right? And so what happens, in my opinion, is you have these people that are spending a lot of time inside with other dudes playing video games, and they still want to bang, right? They still get horny, but they're like, oh, there's no girls around. So then somebody decides that they're going to be the girl, and now I've got a girlfriend. now I don't have to worry about anything because this person who like has the more competitive interests, like a man, because they are, right? But, is playing the role of the woman. Now I don't have to worry about not being around girls. And so that's, I think, why a lot of FGC guys vehemently defend this stuff, because that's like my girlfriend, bro. Like, it's like that thing that I was talking about with Atlanta, where he's like, nigga, that's a man. Like, you know what I mean? Like that, these guys are like, they don't have the access, or they don't have the, and this is not all, but most, I think, FGC people, they stay inside too much and they're hanging around dudes all the time, so it's like, oh well, my boy's gonna be the girl this time or something like that. And it's like, honestly, that's my entire theory, and I know that's insanely controversial, but I do think that has a lot to do with it.
Yeah,
it's
you know what could give a lot of merit to your theory.
Yeah,
I wonder if you ask like 100 dudes in the FGC, right?
Yeah.
You showed them a picture of a trans woman and be like, yo, would you hit that? I wonder, you'd probably get at least 80 to 90% saying yes.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
And so I wonder, like, well, maybe in 50 years ago, you'd probably have like less than 10. Just
right.
Be like, no, I'm not. That's a dude. I'm not going to do that.
Yeah.
Because we have warped reality so much.
Yeah.
In the last few decades, it's like that's the same as a woman.
Well, let's think about like what happens when a chick comes around the FGC, right? She's like, everybody's like, oh, I want to talk to that.
Culture, right?
Right, simp culture, exactly. So then it's like, because it's like it's so rare, it becomes this whole thing where it's like, now it's on a pedestal. Look, you saw in the FGC, women in the FGC, a lot of those girls, like you were saying, it's like they don't even play the game that much. They come in, they play a little bit, they start something else, and they're lifted up because they're women, Yeah. And so like that same concept where it's like, oh, a girl comes through and it's like, oh, I want to impress her, I want to be the one who teaches her shit, or like whatever it is, because they're so rare. But like, then once you get a guy to be like, oh, I'm gonna be a girl now, then it's like, well, I can hang out with this girl all the time and play video games and like get my dick sucked or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And it's like, and it's like, that's fine, but like, I think that's a lot of like why it was so easy and why people can have these like insane takes where it's like, no, I'm just being real, man, that's not actually a woman. But then somebody will be like upset about it, or like, I'm not gay, bro, I'm not fucking gay, like, you know what I mean? And it's like, oh, well, it's like, I hate to break it to you, my guy, but
I think that's a little gay.
Yeah, I think that's a little gay, but whatever, man, do you, man, it's no big deal. But the thing is, it's like you can't even say that without that being a problem. It's like, look, I'm not saying that people can't do that. I'm just saying that's what I think happened.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
and that gets conflated all the time. It's like,
right.
If you disagree with what somebody does, it's conflated as like you don't want them to be allowed to.
Right, exactly.
That's kind of what we were saying earlier before. It's just like rights are being confused with opinions.
Right.
They are not the same thing in the slightest.
Right. Okay, so let's keep going here with this thread, because this is a whole episode on its own, is this thread. Where am I here? You're not helping the cause. Wait, no. Here we go. So Han says, so people can come into probably a typo, my mentions aggressively, but I can't hit back at them. If you read the whole thread, you will see my statements of why trans women are women. And Mr. Banjo says, you're not helping the cause. You're coming off as rude and untitled. You're supposed to explain why it is that trans women are women. They made the transition, therefore they are women. It would be respectful if you address them as what they are, not your tweet on repeat. So, okay, so obviously I don't agree with a lot of what Banjo said there. Yeah. And that's okay. But, like, I do think that he's hitting on something, which is, it's your responsibility. This is somebody who was on my Twitter thread about when I commented on the Big Mods and stuff. We had a whole conversation with someone, and this guy Cries, I think that's how he pronounces it, but we're gonna have him on the show one time. He's a game developer and stuff.
Cool.
But he came in and said something, because we have different opinions on this stuff too. We've talked about this. And he came in and said, look, if you are somebody who wants to be addressed as she, it's on you to make me know why, right? Like, if I see you and you're like, you look male, it's not on me to, like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's your responsibility to, like, and I get where he's coming from to some degree. It's like, you know, we have these gendered words for a reason, these gendered language for a reason and stuff. Like, for example, you know who Blair White is? Like, okay, so I wouldn't call Blair White a he.
Right.
Like, that would be weird,
agree.
right? Because like,
weird.
so it's very strange to, like, not be able to have that part of the conversation. It's like, yeah, it is. If this is how you see yourself and this is how you want to be portrayed and treated or whatever, then it's on you to, like, make me see you that way, right?
Right.
Like, just like with anything else, if I wanted to be, which I don't, like, it's just a lot of drama in the fucking FGC, but if I wanted to be known as a fucking great player, I'd have to fucking work a lot harder than I do and win a lot more tournaments, and it's on me to show people why they should treat me as a great player. It's the same concept.
Right.
You know, and so he has a point there. He absolutely had a point, and I think that's kind of what Banjo's trying to say. You know, in a way that, like, I don't necessarily agree with, but yeah.
Yeah, like, because I mean, we spoke about it before. I don't exactly agree with the premise either. Obviously, like, the main premise, but it's like, I mean, some of the things mentioned in that initial response from Handrose is like she said, if you read the thread, you would see the statements of why. It's just like, that's not the initial tweet though. The initial tweet was just
right.
It's like you were saying it as like an objective statement.
Right,
like,
right.
Trans woman, and that's it. She only, I think in the threads she did respond as to, like, why she thinks they are, but only when she got criticism.
Right,
like,
right.
Well, you're only doing that because someone's criticizing you. What Banjo was saying is, like, you should have started with that.
Right.
And then go on to continue as to telling people why, you know, they are. And again, it's like, obviously we wouldn't agree, but if you're gonna try to, it sounded like she's like in this thread, she's implying that is what I wanted to do. I made this tweet out to try to convince people that trans women are women, but that's not what she did. What she did was she made a statement, and that was it.
Right.
And then anyone who criticized the statement got a bunch of flack. So.
Right. Well, so that's the thing. It's like you're approaching it kind of backwards. If you're starting from, this is the statement, you need to believe it, as opposed to, these are all the things that I believe, and then this is my conclusion. Right? If somebody comes out and says, like, hey, XYZ, you know, ABC XYZ, and fucking won, right? Okay, well, then I could say, like, well, what about, you know, CBA? And then we can have a discussion about it, right? But if you're starting from a place where this is my opinion, which is the right opinion, and you must agree with me otherwise, that's inherently a flawed way to go about convincing anybody of anything. In fact, I think that if you set out trying to convince people of things, you are more often than not going to end up in disappointment, because, for example, I can't remember who said this, but I think this was like some kind of a psychology thing that I was reading or something, but it takes somebody like a couple of, I think it's like up to 7 or to 10 times being exposed to an idea before they start to accept that idea might make sense or something. It's the same thing with, like, marketing. You need to be able to see, like, you need to see a logo 10 to X amount of times in order to, like, recognize it, right? And recognize what the brand is. It's the same thing with conversations and opinions. Somebody needs to be exposed consistently in a way that's not threatening to their own opinions, that's understanding that they have opinions, right? In order to even get to the point where they start to accept the opposing one, right? So if you're coming at people and you're just, like, slamming them in the head with it, that's gonna turn them off, especially when you, like, force feed something to somebody. You make them hate it, you know?
Yeah, I mean, like, I over the years, like, that's what happened to me, right? When I used to be very left, like, I had mainly right-wing opinions. It's just exposed me over the years, and
right?
Just in a very, like, in a very discussion message.
Same, yeah.
And I would just listen to some, just like, at first I was just like, this doesn't make any sense, because I didn't agree with it at the time. And
Right.
over time, I had different people say the same thing, but explore
Right.
different scenarios.
Right.
Scenarios I didn't even think of.
Right.
Just like, oh shit, I never really thought of like that
Right.
one reality. And eventually, the scenarios that these people would explain these dissenting opinions, it started to like actually kick in my head, like, I actually see it from there.
Yeah.
I just didn't
Yeah.
realize it. I never thought about these
Yeah.
scenarios they brought to me.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so that makes a lot of sense, right? Like,
I mean, I think that is part of why a lot of these people who are very leftist Marxists want people to be banned and people to be deplatformed, because they know that if you actually speak to or listen to what they have to say, it'll start to make sense to you. That's the thing. If you can remove those people and remove their ideas from the discourse, then it can't spread. And to be completely honest with you, that's a genius tactic. It makes sense.
Yep.
And I get it. I just don't think that that's the best way to go about preserving freedom.
yeah, it's
Right?
not- I would argue it's immoral. I mean,
Yeah, I would as well. But that doesn't mean that, like, look, honestly, I think that the best way to fight bad ideas is with better ideas. It's not with just removing the idea. It's by debating someone and saying, like, okay, well, this is what, like, okay, trans women are women. Well, this is why they're not. This is why I don't agree with that. Do you have the thing is that a lot of these people, they painted themselves into such a corner, and they know that a lot of their ideas don't make sense, and so that's the only power they have, is like, if you can only listen to my ideas, then you won't realize that the other people are
Yep.
full of sense. I had the exact experience that you did, where I started, like, being more exposed to, like, more like what people consider conservative opinion. I don't think I'm a conservative. I think I'm more of like a right-leaning independent libertarian type, right? I'm kind of like, just leave me the fuck alone. But I agree with the right on a lot of more cultural things than I thought I did when I was younger, right? And I think a lot of it was, like we were saying last time, it's like growing up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like, if they take when I started listening to all this stuff, I started going, wait a second, this person's not racist. This person's not sexist. This person's actually making a lot of sense. Like, this is just normal shit. Like,
yeah. I mean, you start to realize, like, the reason they were called that. It's like,
Yes.
they weren't called that because they were racist. They were called that because the other person couldn't handle
Right.
debating them.
Right,
So
right.
That the other people wouldn't even listen to them.
Right,
I
exactly.
mean, it's worked to a large degree, and that's part of the reason we speak out against this crap. It's because that strategy is immoral.
Yeah, it is.
Like, that is not a good thing to do. And I think what I've noticed too is some of the people in the FGC who participate in that kind of behavior, like ban the person who doesn't agree with us, I feel like their sense of morality has been warped so much that they think they're actually being the moral ones.
Yes.
They're
Yes.
convinced that the people who they disagree with, they have to ban them because they're bad people.
Yeah.
Like, having that opinion means you're a bad person. Whereas, obviously, we would say it's just like moral. I mean, just having a certain opinion wouldn't make it moral. More
Right.
immoral. It's more like the actions based upon those ideas.
Right, exactly. It's what you choose to do about the ideas that you have that's the immoral thing, right? Like, I even say this to people all the time, where I'm like, look, I get it. It would suck if somebody was like, I don't want you in my store because you're black. Totally. But you know what I would do? I would not go to the store, and I would tell you, or tell, other people, be like, hey man, that guy's, like, racist. Like, he won't let me into my store. I kind of hated that. And then you guys can decide whether or not you're going to go in the store.
Yeah.
I'm not going to tell you not to go in the store. I'm just going to tell you I had a bad experience. That sucked. Most reasonable people will be like, well, I'm not going to support that. And I get that. That doesn't mean that I'm going to try to campaign to shut his business down. What I'm going to do is I'm going to give my opinion of my experience, and you guys are going to decide whether or not you want to support it. Well, will I be like, well, man, you got to go to that racist ass guy's fucking place? Like, that kind of sucks. Sure, what if he's the only person who has XYZ and you gotta go? I'm not gonna be mad at you either, man. Like, so there's layers to it, but it's like, dude, realistically, there's mechanisms for this. Most people realistically don't want to deal with people who are assholes.
Right.
And you know, and so like if I just go, hey man, that guy's kind of an asshole, you might be like, wait, really? He's kind of an asshole? And then like maybe you want to go find out for yourself, maybe you want to take my word for it, whatever. But I'm not gonna campaign to get that place shut down. That's a waste of my time, and eventually like it'll just take care of itself. And there's other places where I can go. Like, you know.
I mean, like even for me, like if I were to go somewhere and be like, yo, we don't like Puerto Ricans here, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like, you know, I don't really feel the need to take their thing down. It's because I do believe in redemption. I do believe like people can change their mind over time. It's just like, well, maybe you can. I could even go like maybe even like halfway. I could be like, okay, maybe you don't like Puerto Ricans, but maybe I can convince you to at least, you know, sell me this item that I need.
Yeah, right. Yeah, maybe. Yeah, like,
you know, like if I go that far, I'd be like, okay, like, and that's mainly because I don't, you know, I hate identity politics.
Yeah,
I don't care about that stuff. But it's like, it's like maybe his opinion, his view of a certain race of people is immoral. Sure, I just don't think I'm the moral arbiter of the universe to be able to be like, you know what, you're bad and you must be banned. Like I don't really want that kind of power.
Yeah.
But like, you know, that's really on him. He's got to deal with that kind of shit. And you know, I think on the left opinion of that is just like we have to get rid of that person. They have to be exercised from society.
Yeah,
because they are immoral. Like they kind of act as like the moral arbiters of the universe. And it's just like, well, when you start doing that, the problem with that is what you say becomes the objective morality.
Right.
And you can't trust people to have that because people obviously, like, human nature is not good. Like, all the time it's not controlled. I think this lack of understanding of like what morality is, and like, you know, the fact that there should be an objective morality, and you can't really have someone controlling it, waving the finger around because, you know.
Well, so I sort of agree with you in some ways. I want to stop you at the objective morality point because I do disagree in some senses where I do think that there is an objective morality. But I think that the folks who like are on the left, I guess is what we're to say, they don't actually follow what is an objective morality. So like what we're talking about tagging somebody's sponsor and trying to ruin them because they disagree with you. That's not a moral thing to do, right? Whereas, you know, having the conversation with somebody and like talking to them about why you guys disagree, that would be a moral action. It's not immoral for you to have an opinion that I don't have. And I think that that's the same on the other side, right? Like, I'm not going to say that it's immoral for you to think that trans women are women because that's an opinion. Opinions aren't based in morality, right? I think that, like, well, I guess somebody would say, like, well, somebody could have the opinion that murdering people is okay, and I guess we could have that conversation. But that's something where it's like that's an objective morality, where it's like, infringing upon somebody else's right to live is objectively amoral. And the left argument to that would be, well, if you're not affirming somebody's identity in the way that they say, then that's infringing on their right to live, which I don't think that that's true, because I don't think that someone has the right to infringe their reality on me regardless, or infringe their opinion of that on me regardless of whether or not I agree with it. So to put it succinctly, if I was somebody who said that I'm a she, right, and somebody said that I'm a he, is their imposition of their view of me changing the way that I act or see myself? It's not. And if it does, if it's that fragile, then that means that you need to examine the way that you see yourself and not the other way around, in my opinion. So I kind of agree with you, but kind of disagree. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with most of that. I think largely the problem is mainly progressivism doesn't follow an objective morality.
Yeah, right.
It kind of just changes as time goes on.
Right, totally.
Yeah, it kind of mutates into whatever it is in the
100%, 100%.
That's where we are now. If you don't believe women can be men, you are bad.
Right.
I don't think that was a thing like 40 years ago.
No, it wasn't.
I guess that's more of the point I was.
Yeah, I get you.
We don't really live in that realm. Like they don't live in the realm that there should be objective morality.
Right, right.
They think in the more of like the relativity reality. Where
Yeah.
It's like it's whoever opinions. It's just like,
Right.
well, I mean, you get in really scary places when
Right.
you start believing that, and you have a whole community of people who believe in that, because then
Right.
you can't decide what's right and wrong.
Right.
And now you just have two fundamental ideas clashing. It's like,
Right.
no, there is objective, no, there isn't. And
Right.
I mean, I think we know where that goes.
Right.
We throughout history with some leaders who have had this kind of sense of what morality is. It's like, well,
Right.
whatever I say. And
Well,
it's like,
yeah.
whatever I say, and then it really gets out of control.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I mean, yeah, you hit it right there where you said you can't have a community that way, because a community is a group of people that are united around a shared idea of, like, a shared notion of whatever. And if everything is subjective, then you don't have that unity. You don't have those shared ideals. So by introducing postmodernists, Marxists, whatever you want to call it, thinking where everything is subjective and relative, you are in effect fracturing a community that is supposed to agree on X, Y, Z, right? And honestly, the really funny thing about the postmodernist thinking is that they do this thing where they're kind of like lumping everybody. It's so backwards, because it's so weird. You start breaking it down, you realize none of it makes any sense. Like they lump these people into these categories and say, okay, so trans women are women, when there are trans people who who acknowledge that they're not women, they're just living their lives that way, right? So now you've lumped all of these people into this one category and said that means that that's the objective reality, even though there are people within that group that disagree. Because by the time you break it down all the way, everybody's an individual and everybody should be able to have their own opinions on things. So this is why introducing these things to try to unite a community or like be inclusive is actually dangerous, because with the FGC in particular, what we said in the first episode, what we came around with each other is fighting games. This is the shared idea. Once you start infusing other things where people could have different ideas, then you fracture the community. So you're actually going backwards. You're leaning into individualism, and then you're going backwards in terms of the communalism that the community is supposed to represent. So it's like, again, you start talking about these things, you realize none of it makes any sense. It's so confusing.
Yeah, man. Like, it's kind of like what you said. It's like, we're here because of fighting games, right? Like,
right.
Everyone has that in common, so that unifies everybody. Mainly the progressives in the FGC have turned it. It's like, no, you gotta like fighting games. You gotta agree with trans women or women.
Right.
They put all these opinions on top of that, and what you find is not everybody agrees with that.
Right.
You start dividing people.
Right.
And, like, it's really backwards, because again, they think that what they think is like the real, like the objective morality, right? But while also claiming that it's subjective. It's really weird. It's like it's like, okay, it's like, if anyone could just be claimed to be men, or anyone could be claimed to be women, it's like, well, then you don't, like, they would even like say, like, like it's just a what do you call that? It's just a social construct. Right? It's just like this thing that we made up, right? So if it's this thing we made up, right? When you really follow the layers, you find that they kind of have their own truth. They have their own version of truth. There is no absolute truth.
Right.
And it's really weird, because I guarantee if you talk to some of these progressives, you go, well, is truth, if whether things are true or not, or whether things exist, is it based on just opinion on what people say, or is there is an objective way of viewing the world, regardless of what you think, right? And what I find is just like a lot of progressives actually said, like, no, it's kind of just up to opinions, right? Like, basically, like, morality and truth is subjective.
Yeah, right.
And this is where I would challenge it and say, is that an objective statement? And then
right.
Completely falls apart from there, because it's a self-defeating statement. If you have no objectivity, everything's subjective, then the things you say are not objective either.
Right, 100%.
Nothing means anything.
So yeah, exactly. Yeah.
I think this is really progressivism at its core.
Right, 100%.
Nothing's really objective. You just keep going on whatever you think is right.
Yeah.
And it gets all screwed up, because you're gonna have a whole group of people like us who's just like, no, there is objective this.
Right.
We're not. We're at odds.
Right.
And I think the only way at this point it's to tie us back is like, well, we got to talk about it at least.
Yeah, right.
And that's not happening. It's
right.
It's the thread. So.
Dude, that's actually a really good point where you say, like, they'll say, well, everything's subjective. I was like, well, is that an objective statement? And it's like, like, if you ask somebody that, they'll get angry at you.
Oh yeah.
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, they'll get mad. Because that's all they could go to is it's like, well, does not compute, error, well then, and it's like, if it's that easy to burst a hole in your ideology, like, is that ideology worth holding on to? Like, that makes no sense. Like, the whole idea of, like, learning and gaining new ideas is so that we can, like, let our old ideas die and grow with new ones. But these people are, like, holding on. This goes back to kind of like what we were talking about in the last episode about, like, holding on to adolescence in some senses. Yeah. Holding on to these, like, ideas that don't make sense once you have more information. They only make sense if you stay with limited information. So now you're putting yourself at a level where you can't progress mentally. You can't progress in any capacity outside, you know, ideologically, right? And that's dangerous and ridiculous, and that's where you get nonsense.
Yeah, it just again, it falls apart very quickly
right.
because, you know, logic leaves the ideology. Now it's just like, well, I don't know. It's just feelings at that point.
Right.
You don't want to rely on feelings. Feelings are not good. They're not your friend.
They can lead you astray. Yeah. Right? And they can get you into trouble. They can get you into fights. They can get you in a bunch of stuff. You know what I'm saying? So
the last thing before we end is, if you want to pull up the very end of the thread, since the rest of the thread is kind of just going back and forth. The very end of the thread, the reason why we brought this up is this person, Hannah, actually commend because she ended up actually apologizing. And she basically said, you know what? You're right. I'll take the L. And then she goes and deletes the tweet. And then I don't actually have the screenshot here, but she made another follow-up tweet saying, what I said before, like, I'm sorry for, like, I wasn't being very tolerant of others. And then that was pretty much it. So, like, my friend Banjo actually convinced her that she was wrong at the end. And she came out, and, I mean, I feel like she should have left the tweet up. Just you know, people could see
yeah.
But basically, right at the end, she says, I'll take the L for that then and admit it was wrong. And she pretty much, she basically just, like, gave up the point. And, you know, whether or not that was because of pressure, I don't really know. I don't know if she really meant that or not. Mm-hmm. I want to assume she did, just to be, like, in more good faith and be like, you know what? Maybe she did see the errors of her ways. Just like, I'm sorry for it. So this is actually a commendation for her.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've ever seen anything like this before, like, especially on Twitter, because Twitter this kind of thing does not exist.
Yeah, right. Yes,
so
yeah.
This is really interesting, and I actually want to give, like, a good shout out to her for doing this, because this was complete opposite of what we saw on the previous episode.
Yeah, right.
Where people just don't accept apologies. Where, you know, not only did she apologize, but my friend Banjo did, and I actually did too. I was like, okay, that's fine.
Yeah,
now,
for sure.
I'm really just bringing this up as, obviously we don't really agree with some of these fundamental points, but overall, I don't think she's a bad person. I think it's actually very good thing.
Yeah. And
I don't think anything of this kind of nature was tweeted out from her after this. Like, that was really cool. So,
that must have been like the 10th time that she had this conversation, right? Because, like, it doesn't take it takes more than one, you know.
Right. Yeah, so I guess, so anyone who's watching, audio, video, if you're watching, do you think this can be a more common thing? Where people kind of actually understand why they're wrong, just like, yeah, I'm sorry, and that's it. Do you guys see this being the norm? Because I would like to be the norm as long as it's genuine. If it's, because, you know, if you're not sorry, fine, just explain why you don't give in. Like, give a reason why.
Yeah.
Don't just be sorry just because, you know. And, you know, it seems like she was pretty genuine. So this is what I would like to see in the future of the FGC. I hope that this is more of a thing going forward.
People actually having the conversation.
Yeah, which she did have, because she couldn't have done that. She could have just blocked Banjo and left it at that, saying,
yeah, for sure.
Keep doing, but she didn't do that. So, and apparently she also DM'd the guy she tried to cancel too.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that was cool.
Well, there you go.
Yeah, I mean, I hope this is the future.
Yeah.
I mean, this is how you move forward as a community. Is like, when people start believing in redemption, and you can be forgiven, then you'll be willing to have the conversation, because the end result could just be either you disagreeing or you saying sorry, whatever.
Yeah, for sure.
You know, that's fine.
Yeah.
I'd like to see it more often.
Well, I think that comes with people have to understand that the person who disagrees with them is not evil.
Yeah.
You know, and if you approach this from a perspective of, okay, this is just another person with thoughts and opinions just like me.
Yep.
As opposed to this person is a bad person you'll find that it's a lot easier to find redemption inside someone, or forgive someone, or admit that you're wrong, or whatever, because you're not going to be on this like crusade to try to destroy, or like, it's not like me versus that person. It's really just the ideas versus one another, right? It's not personal.
No, for sure. I mean, like I said, that has to be kind of in your mind before you begin a conversation.
Yeah.
If it's nothing gets done. So I hope, I don't know. It seems like she had that sort of that perspective. Otherwise she wouldn't have. I feel like if she was really thought Banjo was evil, she probably wouldn't even bother.
Yeah, you're probably right.
She had to have some kind of idea of that. So
yeah,
like I said, I think this is a good example of just what I would like to see.
I agree. So that's actually a good note to end on. Thank you. We're going to end this episode of the Anti-Oki Podcast. Before we do, Silos, let them know where they can find you.
I am on Twitter at twitter.com/Silos, but replace the O with a 0 at CEEL0WS. And on Twitch, the same thing, but no 0, just the letter O, CEELOWS.
Fantastic. You can find me on Twitch at twitch.tv/MrBehavior. You can find me on Twitter at RealMrBehavior, MrBehavior. You can see it like right there, in a little thing right there. That's how you spell it. And you can find me on YouTube at youtube.com/LOCSTAKES. That's Loke Takes. That is my YouTube show, because I am Mr. Behavior, aka Chris Lokes. You'll find out. All right, this has been the Anti-Oki Podcast, and we'll see you on the next one.
They say you must defeat Shenlong to stand a chance, but homie, you're dead wrong. Just take a glance. Attack me if you dare, son. I will crush you. I'll crack your back. You should be scared, son. I'll bust you. Just go home and be a family man. If not, I'm gonna have to destroy your anatomy, man. It's natural for someone like me to be the world's strongest, because I'm on this. Just being honest. I astonish. My sonic boom flash kicks are right here waiting for you. Wanna get your ass kicked for your plastic. Your kung fu is weak and mine is chic and spastic. Fantastic. You're not a warrior, you're just a beginner. Get up, wimp, and bask in the glory of a winner. My strength is much greater than yours. I'm a street fighting legend, the creator of wars. No use debating the score. I've waited patiently for someone to pound through the ground. I'll smash your face in the floor. Get lost, dog. I'm the boss. You can't compare with my powers. I play this game for the fame. They claim the hundreds of hours.
Listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. No need to worry, a state of euphoria. I won the tourney twice, now I am the world warrior. Using my kung fu to destroy you. Flurry of kicks which only your performer do. Ken's a competitor, write you out like an editor. Stay ahead of the pack, flame attack like a predator. I ain't stretching the truth, my dull Sims the tightest. I'll leave you burnt to a crisp with elephantitis. Need to charge up to bite, scrap attack with Blanca. Yo, I'm warming up my engines when you lose to Honda. There's no doubt my win count will haunt ya. Wanna try and win again? Well, after this you won't want to. Every street fight is better the second time around. I've learned how to throw down. I'm KO bound. Do I punch light or medium? No, I punch hard, because I'm pretty sure I just kicked and blew up a car. Yo, you're looking like vomit. I busted suplex atomic. I fill the room with the boom that sounds supersonic. Tiger flame so feisty, uppercut so nicely. Sagat will brew you up a batch of Mai Tai iced tea. Listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one day old. Keep on wishing, man, cause no, you'll never win. Yo, listen, it's a tournament edition. Challenging me, it's just like pissing in the wind. Doing KO since I was one can't